everyone, Miss Carrie here from Miss Carrie's Creations, and I have another VIP exclusive for you for National Scrapbooking Day. Many of your projects today will require some stamping, so I thought I would show you 6 basic techniques using our acrylic stamps. I have my Versamat here. I have a collection of inks, and I'm going to be using the 2 Blue Skies stamp sets. Remember, these are only available during the month of May. I'm going to show you a variety of techniques using these stamp sets. I hope that you give a couple of them a try. So before we get started, I want to explain to you the purpose of the Versamat. This Versamat is a solid surface on one side, and on the back side is a squishy foam surface, just like the inserts in your stamp sets. And this squishy foam surface is perfect for stamping on. I do use the front quite a bit for lining up my stamps. So, for example, on this stamp set, we have these wonderful little sentiments. And sometimes they can be a little bit difficult to get on a block. But if you place them down on the line and then set your block on top, you know that they are now straight. One other way that I use this Versamat is to measure my stamps. If I need to know how large to cut a piece of cardstock to match this ticket stamp, I can place the stamp right down here in the 0, corner of my Versamat and be able to see that I need to cut a piece of cardstock that's 1 by 2 or a little bit bigger to fit the size of this stamp set. So let's go ahead and get started learning all kinds of new techniques that you can use with your acrylic stamps. So the first technique I want to teach you is called solid stamping. That is the stamping technique you use most of the time when you create cards or scrapbook pages. This is an example of solid stamping. So you can see the little dandelions are just stamped as is, no changes, right onto the card. When you first get a stamp, you are going to want to season it. And these are brand new stamp sets. There's a couple of ways to season them. I have just stamped them down onto my Versamat until they lose a little bit of their stickiness. I know people who will rub them on their arm. I also know people who will do some couple of stamped images, and we're going to do that. So I've got some canary ink here. When inking up your stamp, you're going to use what's called the twist, twist, tap, tap, tap method. And I know that sounds like a fancy dance, but you're going to twist your stamp a couple of times in the ink pad and then tap it. And that gives it a nice full coverage of ink on the stamp. I'm going to go ahead and just press it down here. And you can see that did give me a decent inked image. You can see there's a little bit of darkness here and there. I am going to flip this over just so I have the squishy side. And we're going to do that again. Twist, twist, tap, tap, tap. Do a second one. Twist, twist, tap, tap, tap. And then we've got a third one. Okay. And that is your basic solid stamping. The second technique I want to teach you is called second generation stamping. Here's an example of second generation stamping. We have these smudge stamps. They're kind of like paint splatters. And if I had done the full strength stamping onto this card, you would not have been able to see the sentiment on the front. So this gray color is actually second generation stamped. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I've got my little banner stamp here, and I'm going to grab some Bluebird ink. And again, twist, twist, tap, tap, tap. First generation is full strength ink. And then we lift, and without re-inking, we're going to just come down again. And then you can even do it a third generation without adding more ink. You could add a third banner, which makes it a little bit lighter color of blue. So there we have what is called second or third generation inking. The third stamping technique I want to tell you about is called random stamping. And random stamping really isn't random, and I'll explain that here in a minute. Here are some examples of random stamping. This was a flower image that was randomly stamped on the background. This one was another flower image randomly stamped on the background. And here are some pumpkins that have been randomly stamped for a background. When you random stamp, you want to think of clusters of 3. So let's start with this leaf. Twist, twist, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to start down here in the corner. I'm going to stamp the first image. Then I'm going to ink it up again. I'm going to turn the stamp just a little bit and stamp the image. And now I have 1, 2, I want to create a visual triangle. So my third leaf is going to go over here. And now I have 1, 2, continuing with that visual triangle. 1, 2, 1, 2. We're going to come down here off the edge a little bit. So if you think of it like you're creating a piece of patterned paper, those patterns do go off the edge of the paper. And that's exactly what you're doing here with these images. But you are creating that visual triangle as you are stamping them so that it does appear balanced. So random stamping really isn't random, but it does create a beautiful look. The next technique I want to show you is called rock and roll stamping. Here are some examples of rock and roll stamped images. So these leaves have a bit of color around the edges, and that was because I used the rock and roll technique. So I've got 2 colors of red ink here, Candy Apple and Ruby, which is a little bit darker. If you watched the Poppy video I posted here last week, she did show you how to do this rock and roll technique. You're going to start with the lighter color and ink up your stamp. And then we're going to roll that stamp in the darker color. So you're just going to roll right around the edges. And then we go ahead and we stamp that. Now it looks like the candy apple is actually darker than Ruby. So on this flower, the candy apple ended up right there in the center, and my ruby color is right on the outside. The next technique is called ombre stamping. I don't have an example of this. I ended up sending that card away recently. Ombre stamping creates an ombre look on your image. So here I have 2 colors of blue, and I have the Love This stamp set. So I'm just going to stamp the top half into the lighter blue, and then add the darker blue ink to the bottom half of the stamp. And when I stamp this down, I've created a small ombre look. Now I did not season this stamp set so you can see the little bubbles. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that again so we can see it a little bit better. Let me go ahead and just place it against my foam here, season it, go down into the lighter ink, then go over here into the darker ink, stamp the image. That's much better. And now you have that ombre look. This last technique does have quite a few steps to the process, but the look is amazing. It is called masking. On this stamp set, the truck and the tree were all one solid image on my stamp, and I wanted them to be stamped in black and in green. So I masked the stamp set so that I could stamp it in 2 different colors. Now I did not cut my stamp set. I did what's called masking, and I'm going to show you that using this beautiful day stamp set. So I'm going to start by grabbing a little sticky note here, and this is what we call super sticky notes, and I'll put links to some of these things I'm using down in the comments.
It is full adhesive on the back, and I found that these work well and they're affordable. I'm going to just grab just the portion of the stamp that I'm planning on masking, and that's the word day. So I'm just stamping just a part of that stamp. And then I have cleaned off my stamp set, and I am going to cut out the portion that I will be masking. So I'm going to get as close to this as possible. So I'm going right around. So we have our white daisy cardstock here, and I'm going to put down this mask. Now I do need to grab a little bit of extra post-it tape for the side, because it is going to go over the edge here, and when I'm stamping this, I do not want that part of the image onto the cardstock. Now they do sell these super sticky notes in a much larger size. Unfortunately, I am out of them today. So we're going to make do with what I've got. I have created a mask here. In essence, the only portion that is open is that day portion that's going to be stamped in red. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp here. And then I'm going to line this up with the mask. And this is a little bit difficult to do on camera. Looks like I need a little bit more ink there. Okay, we'll go down. And you can see that filled in only where I have the mask open. So I'm going to clean my stamp real quick. I'm going to close the red ink. And then I'm going to remove the mask. If you do a lot of masking with a particular stamp set, you could save your masks. I have done that inside the stamp set itself. So, put this little mask together and just stick it onto the backing sheet so that you can use it later. Now I'm going to grab the day stamp and place it right over the image we stamped. And now I'm going to ink it up with some blue ink. And I think my Bluebird ink here is starting to need re-inked. So it's a little bit lighter than I'd like today. Then we're going to line up again on top of that mask the best that we can. And like I said, this is a little difficult doing on camera without sticking my head in the shot. We're going to go ahead and go down, pull that up. And like I said, my ink pad is needing some re-inker today. Then we go ahead and pull off that second mask. And now we've created that title in 2 colors. So today you learned how to do masking. You learned how to do ombre stamping. You learned how to do rock and roll stamping, random stamping, second generation, and solid stamping, all using our May Special Blue Skies stamp sets.
I hope that you enjoyed today's VIP exclusive tutorial. Remember, this tutorial is only for VIP members, and this link should not be shared outside the group. If you enjoyed today's project, go ahead and click that subscribe button and notification icon so that you are notified when new videos are added to my channel. If you'd like to see other stamping projects I have created, go ahead and click on that collection icon above. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.